Well, Melissa, we just finished up the 8th season of Big Bang Theory on CBS, and you had a lot going on this year, lots of different kinds of things. How would you assess this particular season for your character?
It was interesting. I think with the death of Mrs. Wolowitz on the show this year, it was a turning point, I think, for Bernadette and Howard in their relationship. I think, as in any marriage, when there's a tragedy, there's it can either take a relationship apart or bring them close together. And I think we really saw how solid their marriage was and how they navigated this.
But we saw both sides of that, like you say. I mean, it wasn't like it was smooth sailing. There were bumpy parts of that road.
Yes, that's for sure. I think, especially with Stuart still being in the house, it was an adjustment. They sort of moved into Mrs. Wolowitz's house as they were cleaning it up, and Stuart was there, so they were also dealing with having a third party in their marriage while dealing with the death of his mother.
And over the years, I don't know if they knew this when you were hired, or even if they were going in this direction, but there are moments along the way over these past few seasons where you particularly sound like her.
I'm always so excited when they give me that to do. I remember the first script that it was in a few seasons back. I was bringing Howard food, and then I was calling off screen to Mrs. Wolowitz, and it's funny. The voice that I do for Bernadette is actually very similar to my mother's voice, but Mrs. Wolowitz's voice is very similar to my father's voice. They're two different ranges as far as octaves go, but the Mrs. Wolowitz voice is, of course, very, very specific, and I was so excited this season when they kind of paid tribute to her at the end when Sheldon and Leonard were fighting, and Mrs. Wolowitz came out of Bernadette to put them in their place.
Early on, too, I love the fact that Howard he didn't even realize, but the other people, the other friends of his did realize that, hey, he might have, in a partial way here, married his mother.
Exactly. I think oftentimes when sons marry their mothers, they're kind of blind to that fact that they're looking for those traits in their wife. So I love that he's oblivious to that.
Now, when you were first hired, when you auditioned, came on the show, I mean, what were your expectations? Did you feel like, hey, this might be a recurring or long term, or was it a one shot? What was your situation?
It was supposed to just be a one-shot, one-time episode. I was so excited when I got the audition because I was such a fan of the show beforehand. My father is very specific about his TV, and that was one show that he was obsessed with and always talking about. And he actually got me into it, and I was so excited to go in for the role. And it was one of those auditions where there was so many people around that I had totally psyched myself out and convinced myself that it wasn't going to happen because there were so many girls there. And then I was so excited when I got the call back to read for the producers. And then I just thought, okay, well, this is great. I have a one-time guest star job. And, I was doing pretty much guest star work was my bread and butter at the time. I was in between like some failed pilots and shows that didn't get picked up. And so I was just excited to have a job for the week. And when you're a guest star, you kind of feel like you're a foreign exchange student coming into an environment. And everyone was so welcoming from the moment I sat down at the table for the table read. But I thought that, well, it's really nice to be here for this week and everyone's so nice. But I really, I thought that was going to be it. And then I think later that week, before we shot the episode, I got a call that they had put me on hold for a couple more episodes, and I was just over the moon, totally overjoyed. And then when it became an actual series regular job, it was just a dream come true. It was nothing that I ever thought would happen, and it really is an actor's dream to have that happen.
I want to talk about some of the relationships here, but let's start with Howard, Simon Helberg, who you have a lot of scenes with. What's it like working with him?
I think he's a comedic genius. He is, and he's also one of the nicest people. I mean, the whole cast we're very much a close-knit family and very close. And Simon and I are close as well. And he's personally, I have to say, like, he is just an amazing father and just such a good guy. And that made it sound like he's my father. He's not my father, but he's an amazing father to his children. And he's just so great to work with. He's so connected. He's the choices that he makes. A lot of times when I read the script and then hear him say it out loud, the way he spins dialogue, I think is so fantastic. And he just has unbelievable instincts. And I thought the work he did this season, especially with some really heavy material that, normally for a half-hour sitcom, you don't really get to delve into such heavy emotion. And I thought how the writers constructed these episodes where it wasn't a very special death episode. It really, you found out even in the episode where his mother died that it was towards the end of the episode. And I just thought he handled that moment so beautifully with, letting everyone know that his mom had passed away. But I love working with him so much. I feel, even for that first day on set, he was just so wonderful and made me feel right at home. And, he's a great work husband to have.
And one of my favorite parts of the show, and I've talked to all the different cast members over the years, but I love it when there's a girls segment or a girls, maybe half of an episode where the three of you are doing something. Just talk about working with that in that kind of a relationship.
It's so fun. It's very much like how it is on camera. It's so fun to get that female energy together. This year we had the Vegas episode where Penny and Amy and Bernadette went to Vegas, and it was a role reversal of Penny actually having to study rather than going out and party. And that one was so much fun to shoot. The three of us had a blast together. Of course, playing drunk was super fun, especially since the drinks that they actually made for us were so intensely sugary that we were just on a sugar high the whole time as we were filming it. But they're great. And both Mayim and Kaylee both of them have such fantastic timing. And so when we have those scenes together, they flow so well. And I just love how the writers have done such a wonderful job with making us each so specific. I think, a lot of times there's the smart girl and there's the pretty girl. And on this show, there's two scientists essentially who are hanging out together, and yet my character and Amy's character are so distinctly different. And even though we're both in a similar profession, although, not exactly the same.
That Vegas episode, and you get to do this over the course of some episodes each year, is not nearly, I guess, as dialogue heavy as it is physical comedy, which I think that must be so much fun as an actress to play.
Absolutely. I was so excited. Bernadette oftentimes wears like these very sensible loafers for her footwear. And I was very excited that for one of the first times she was wearing a set of heels, and also she's supposed to be wasted. So I was so excited to be able to play like that giraffe leg physicality with those scenes where Bernadette's supposed to be absolutely tanked.
Well, two parts of your work world came into focus this year. The very first episode is where you help Penny get the job there, being a pharmaceutical salesperson. Talk about, that really, it was a great way to start the season.
I've loved what they've done with Penny's character and her really coming into her own and being really great at this job. And the fact that, Bernadette helped her get there, I think created for a very interesting dynamic. Whenever I feel like in real life, when you mix work life with your personal life, there's always that possibility for things not to go so well. And Bernadette, really didn't know that she had this anger issue and was very unliked in her office and by her coworkers. So when Penny came into that world, I think it gave us some really great material with being able to see how Bernadette being able to find out how she's viewed by her coworkers. And I think it was a real shock to her system.
Well, you had to be thrilled as an actress. When you start seeing those kind of scripts, because you know, a lot of the seasons you've been seeing through the eyes of Howard or in Howard's world, but now, I mean, they're branching you out and we're seeing what you're like. I mean, that episode came a few episodes after that first one where you do find out what your coworkers really think about you.
I was so excited. I love I love that they've planted these layers to Bernadette, that she could be a very loving wife, she could be a nagging wife, but also she's got this temper and fire inside of her, encased in this odd pipsqueaky shell that is so fun to play, especially in a work environment. I feel like you know, sometimes women are, you know, afraid to say what they want or stand up for themselves in the work environment. And I think it's hilarious that Bernadette, not only does she not realize that she's abrasive and coming off so strong, is that she has no qualms about it. She has no qualms about it whatsoever.
Another episode I really liked this year was the one with the battle at the ping pong table.
Oh, that was another really fun one to shoot. I'm sure you've heard over the years that ping pong is very big on the Big Bang Theory set. Kaylee and Kunal are phenomenal players. When I first started, I would just watch tournaments. We would have like blowout tournaments against other TV shows. I'm terrible at it, so I was very happy that they didn't write me playing because it would have been horrible. But we have some very talented ping pong players on set, so they were really going for it as we were shooting it. And I love the dynamic of these friends coming together to help clean out Mrs. Wolowitz's house, while also just getting into their own bag of fun.
And she wanted nothing to do with that Doctor Who. Well, I don't even remember what you call that. I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but she wanted that thing out of the house.
That's for sure. I mean, in my own life, I'm sure if my husband wanted a Doctor Who TARDIS, I mean, there are concessions you need to make in a marriage, but Bernadette and Howard's apartment, I don't think it would have fit.
And the fans of this show, I mean, this is the most popular comedy series of the last decade. Plus, it's got the sci-fi elements and the geeky elements. I mean, all of those combining together, I'm sure. I mean, tell us about just the world that you live in with the fans of the show. And not necessarily the bad section of that, whatever bad section there is, but the fun part of that.
You know, this show, I have to say, I've pretty much only had wonderful encounters with the fans in Comic-Con in years past. I think there was only one weird encounter I had at Comic-Con when I was using the ladies' room, and a hand reached under the stall, and it was like covered in green paint, and asked for an autograph, just like in costume with a green hand. It's creepy enough having a hand reach under a stall in general, but the fact that it was covered in green paint was pretty intense. But the fans are just so supportive and wonderful. We had this year some super fans who won this Big Bang trivia contest come to set, and they were able to name every episode by name, tell you what it's about. I mean, they were trumping the cast and the writers. It was unbelievable. And I just think it's a really passionate world. And I think, you know, in addition to the comic book world and the sci-fi world that I think identifies with some of the things that the guys are interested in on the show, I think what really resonates with people and what the creators and writers have done such a good job of really highlighting is these are a group of underdogs who have found their family. And I think we all can relate to being underdogs at some point in our life, whether we're into comic books or Star Wars or science, or we're a nerd in school. I think at some point all of us have felt that we may be a bit of an underdog. So I just think that that's what resonates with people across the board.
I think you're right. I mean, even if you look at the Chuck Lorre shows over the years, this one has a lot of heart to it. I mean, of course, it's got the laughs coming every minute, but it's got a lot of heart and a lot of emotion. And you really, as a just an audience member, you care about these people.
Yeah, I think thank you for saying that. I think that's really true. There's so many times where I'll get a script and I'll just be sitting there with tears welled up in my eyes. And I think, you know, it's really beautiful that these characters have found each other and found this family that they created together, no matter where they came from. You know, some of them have difficult relationships with their parents, and I think what's really great is that also these characters have had a chance to evolve and change. And I think a lot of times either you don't get to see that on shows because they don't have the privilege of time, or it's just not somewhere that the show wants to go. But I think in this case, like the fact that we've seen Howard go from this kind of creepy ladies man or trying to be a ladies man rather, and then now he's a family man who was dealing with, you know, the death of his mom alongside his wife and his friends in a really sensitive and emotional way, and really was the one who was domesticated first. I just think I think it's really special to be able to do that, and how Sheldon's evolved in his relationship with Amy, and how Penny's evolved from the beginning. I mean, like you were saying with my character, that it started as Howard's, you know, an accessory to Howard, and how they've really been able to give her a life of her own. And I'm so grateful to be a part of that.
Well, you'll go back to work obviously at the end of the summer on Big Bang, but you've got to be incredibly excited about this movie coming out in the fall too.
Yeah, I am. I'm super excited. It's called The Bronze, and I play a former bronze medal winning gymnast who 10 years ago won the bronze medal in gymnastics, and now these years later she hasn't done anything with her life, and she's living in her father's basement, and she's miserable and has become a very bitter, angry, nasty human being. It was so fun to write. I wrote it with my husband, Winston, and we shot it last summer in Ohio, and it went to Sundance in January. We were very excited about that. We were the opening night of the festival there, and now we're coming out in October. So we're really, really excited. I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Well, not having seen it, but just I will commend you on one thing here. I mean, nobody cares or has sympathy for the gold medal winner, the Oscar winner, the Peabody winner, whatever it may be. But the bronze, I mean, that's such I would think a rich area to mine there. Somebody that's didn't quite get to what she wanted.
It's true. It's true. I think there's something very symbolic about it for this character, and we were lucky enough to have some cameos from famous gymnasts. We have Dominique Mucciano and Olga Corbett who appear in it, and it was really funny when Olga on her dance set, we asked her what she thought of the bronze medal, because she has all these gold medals, and she's like, the bronze is nothing. The bronze. Who cares about the bronze? So I think it's interesting. You can name all these gold medalists over the years, but we wanted to explore what happened when someone still achieves excellence in this world, but is once all the endorsements go away a couple years later, what happens to that person, and the whole idea of celebrity in a small town, and how we oftentimes put whether it be athletes or actors just up on a pedestal, and what happens when all that hype fades away.
Well, good luck with that. I know you're excited, and we're looking for more great things out of Big Bang Theory as it heads into I can't believe this, but a 9th season.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm so insanely grateful. Thank you.